We're afraid of what people will think, or we're afraid we're not good enough, or we're afraid we're too much. And so we hold ourselves back. When we do that, we're muting ourselves. And there are too many people that are muting themselves in the world. And I, for so many years, was one of them. I've discovered the power of unmuting myself, of showing up in the world in a way that is joyfully expressed and boldly alive. That's something that has been so important to me as I've discovered how freeing it is to be unmuted, to unmute our body and to unmute our ideas and to unmute our desires, to unmute ourselves in relationships and at work, and to be our own advocates and to ask for what we want and need. The unmuted life is a life that is fully alive and fully expressed and confident and clear. And to me, it's the only way that I know how to live now. I know what it's like to feel confined and stuck and small and silenced. And I also know what it feels like to be expressed and alive and joyful and present and seen. And it's so much better of a life to be unmuted. And that is what I want to bring you into. Are you ready to unmute yourself? Let's make it happen. Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to burst. This past weekend has been amazing. So for anyone who's joining us new, my name is Rachel Druckenmiller. I'm the host of Unmute Yourself. I'm so excited to see all these names in the comments today. Zach Demopoulos, can't wait for you to hear about this, my friend. Toby, who was with us on Saturday at the TEDx. Tim, behind the scenes, the man behind the curtain, who was there as well. They got to meet. Isn't it so fun when like people that we're friends with online only are like, oh my gosh, like 3D version. It's so cool. And it's kind of weird, you know, you're like, wow, I only know you as like a circle. So it's kind of cool. Natalie, so glad you're here. This is going to be such a fun episode. Jill was with us. Jill Porter was with us in Rockville for the TEDx on Saturday. Deb, so good to have you here. Nathan, good morning. Oh my God, you guys, and Rich. Rich says unmuted life means a little bit more after Saturday, eh? Yes, it does mean a little bit more. I can't wait to tell you all this whole journey of how this TEDx happened, how Saturday went. Mark Holden, you're going to get a shout out today, just so you know. May end up bringing you up if you're up for that. We're going to have about Rebecca's here. Welcome, Rebecca. Marina's here. Russ, so good to see you here. I saw your progress on your surgery. Hope that you're doing well today. Doug, glad you're here. Tom, oh my gosh, Chris, Joseph. Wow, I'm so excited that all of you are here today. This is going to be an incredible show. Farong, welcome. Ken, Ken always brings so much just like enthusiasm. Ken, every time you show up anywhere, you get the award for like the 10x, 100x enthusiasm award, Ken. So thank you for showing up with all of this, all of these words. I can't even do them justice by reading them all, but we can see them all in the comments. Angela, welcome. Daniel, oh, thank you, thank you. Yes, 3D relationships are the best, Joseph. I'm with you on that. Yes, I celebrated my 39th birthday on Saturday. The same day I did my TEDx talk in Rockville, Maryland, which was so awesome and so fun. And I'm going to tell you all about it. I'm going to tell you the journey to get there. You're going to leave here feeling more inspired about your own. Get out of here, Tim. I didn't know you could do that. Even I get surprised on my own show. You've been waiting for that. Party time, party time. That is so cool. Oh my gosh, I love this. Paul is here. Welcome, Paul. Oh my gosh. Y'all, this is amazing. So, yes, will you grace us with your voice later? I mean, maybe I can sing something. I'll think of what it could be. You want to know how my TEDx went? Yeah, so let's go there. But before we do that, let's get a question for all of you to Toby, sorry to point out this comment because Paul just mentioned the singing thing. Toby said, I don't think I've sung happy birthday to someone so many times in one day. Yes, I was sung to many times on Saturday by many people, the entire room. Before I was brought up on stage, I was introduced before I did my talk, and the MC let everyone know it was my birthday. And so the entire room sang happy birthday to me. And then I went up to talk. So I felt so supported. It was the coolest happy birthday ever. It was pretty awesome. So yes, Zach, those are not floaters. That's confetti. So we want to ask you a question first and invite you to share what is something that you're celebrating today. It could be something big. It could be something small. It could be something related to your work. It could have nothing to do with your work. What is something right now that no matter how small it is or how big it is that you are celebrating? Because I tell you, this was a weekend of celebration. And I was just reminded as you're dropping these in, I was reminded of how our biggest and most meaningful moments are spent in the company of people that we love and feel supported and celebrated and elevated by. Like anything that is of great significance in our lives typically doesn't happen in isolation. I can't think of anything in my life that's been like really amazing, big magnitude, milestone moment that I'm like, well, I did that by myself and I was with myself. And like, you know what I mean? It's just, it's the community. It's the people that we love and care about that really make us, feel that sense of, wow, this is a big deal, So let us know something you're celebrating. Opportunities to be really good at my job. Yes, Toby. Life. Thanks, Chris. Seriously though. I mean, when you have a birthday, also you're more reminded of like, I'm here another year. Not everyone gets that. It's a big deal. Joseph's new book, Trust Me, came out, launched and released. Congratulations. Ken, thank you for my birthday greeting. Zach says, I'm celebrating my 3-year-old grandson rode the zoo train this morning and celebrating my friend's big weekend. Oh, you're so nice. I'm like, who's your friend? No. Rich, upcoming Foo Fighters. Rich, upcoming Foo Fighters concert this weekend, a big deal to me. You've never seen them live? Oh, you have to tell us how that is. That's going to be remarkable. One of Rich's favorite songs is a Foo Fighters song. And we found that out in the fall at Tim's Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer event. So Rich, cannot wait to hear about that concert. Nathan, great family week last week and vacation next week. If you're just joining us, we're dropping in the chat before we get into the stories today, something you're celebrating. Let's see, Deb, celebrating my childhood friend's mother's 95th birthday. Whoa, 95. That's a big deal. Jill, the ability to start over or with renewed focus right where we are at this very moment. Yeah. Like have an opportunity to get to restart, to get to have a second chance, to get to recalibrate, to have a fifth chance. I mean, that is such a gift. Stephen, welcome. Both my grown children showed initiative addressing their futures today. Hey, perfectly timed to be in this session, by the way, because we're going to be talking about that. Natalie, celebrating standing up for myself and saying no when I immediately knew something wasn't the right fit for me. High fives for that. And it's scary, but then it feels good, right? You're like, I did that. Nancy Ann, welcome. Waking up today. Yes. Yes, times like these. There it is. Song. Let's see. Maybe Zach and Rich are having a conversation about the concert. I love it. Anybody else want to drop in? Feel free. Bill was there. Bill and I got to meet. Bill, when did we first meet? 5 years ago at a CPA conference. And Bill is one of the kindest humans that you will ever meet. He says, gratitude for an amazing weekend spent around inspiring and genuine people. 3 different events, including being live at TEDx and meeting Andrea Sanchez and Tim Sohn. I love that you got a picture together. So great. So awesome. So thank you for doing that. And I think it's important for us to celebrate, and not just on a holiday or not just on a birthday. Like it's important because we're not promised the next day, And so it's important for us to pause on a consistent basis, like daily, weekly, monthly, at least, to check in with ourselves and say, hey, what's something I'm celebrating? What's some progress I've made that I'm proud of? What's something that I'm appreciative of in this moment that I might otherwise take for granted? It's such a powerful practice for us to consistently do that, because it also, one of the things I find that it helps us do is to activate a sense of self-worth. Like we're worth celebrating, that we're worth pausing and acknowledging something about ourselves. I think so many people are quick to brush those things off or try to, dodge them. But it's like, take a moment and celebrate and acknowledge something that you've done. I love this. All right. So you want to hear some stories? I'm going to share with you all today the process that I went through and how I got to have this dream that I've had for a really long time happen. I know many of you know this who've been with us before on the show, but growing up, I was not a performer of a kid. I was very shy. I was soft-spoken. I was not an outgoing child. I was kind of like polite and nice. And my grandmother said last night at dinner, she said, "You were a very sweet little girl." But I definitely wasn't somebody who was like bold and brave and adventurous. That was for sure not me at all. But once I started speaking, which was also not an intentional thing I ended up doing, I just started getting asked to speak at different things starting in about 2008, 2009. And sometimes it was to a college classroom of 15 people, and I got paid $75 and thought that was awesome. And it was, right? Like, this is a gift. I can't believe I get to do this. And I had my first national keynote in 2016. And I remember I got off the stage at that event, and Sean Foy, who was a friend and mentor of mine, said, "Have you ever thought about doing a TEDx?" This was in 2016. I had been watching TED Talks online. I'm sure many of you have. Feel free to drop in your favorites. If you have a favorite TED Talk that you really like, you can drop that in the chat. Maybe everyone will go be inspired and watch some of those after this session today. But I said, when he asked me, I said, yeah, like I've watched those for years, and I've always thought that I'd want to do one. But this was just my very first national keynote ever. So I did not remotely feel like I was at the point of being able to do that, being able to make that dream a reality. It was just sort of some distant dream at the time. And then as I started going through, I started speaking more, started getting more, feedback from people about my speaking and the impact it was having. Went through a professional speaker training in 2018, 2019. That's what gave me the courage to leave my job and do this thing full time. And the TEDx was just sort of a thing that I had in my, vision for the future, but wasn't taking any action on. And then starting about 3 or 4 years ago, Bill and I, at the end of every year, we do this reflective process where we jot down and, think about things from the past year and what we want the year coming up to look like. And so one of the things I've written on my vision for this is TEDx, right? This is what I've written. I've drawn a TEDx and I've drawn a red circle for the past 3 years on this vision. And for the previous 2 years, like 2019, 2020, 2021, I wasn't doing anything to make that dream happen, but I kept writing it each year. Like there's power in writing things down and helping ourselves to see on paper this vision that we have for something happening in our life. So I finally got to the point where it was December of 2021, and I said, I want to do this TEDx thing, but I don't want to do this by myself because I was very busy with my work. And this is the power of aligning with the right kind of people. I'm not even sure how I found her, but I found somebody who was worked with people to get on TEDx stages. And so I hired her, and I was like, this is a rough vision of, I think, what I want to talk about in my talk. And we talked for about 4 months. We kind of went back and forth. And then May of 22 happened. And you guys, I sat on that thing. I basically ghosted her from May of 22 to October of 22. And I made zero progress on my TEDx. Zero. Hadn't been selected yet, hadn't made an official pitch, hadn't finalized my session description. And I was coming back from a conference I spoke at in Michigan. And on the flight, I was like, I know what I want to do. And I outlined the whole thing on the flight, and I emailed it to my coach. And I said, I know what I want to do for my talk, how I want to structure it. And then we hit the ground running. And the way that this works, there are thousands and thousands of TEDx events. So TEDx events are independently organized events all over the world. And it can be overwhelming to think, where do I even apply? So this is one of the reasons I hired a coach. And this is why coaching is really powerful, why working with people that have done a thing that you want to do can help accelerate your path. When you work with a coach, because they know to do things that you don't know to do, that could take you 2 or 3 times longer to do it if you even start. But if you have somebody who knows what they're doing, then they can get you there faster. And so I had sent an outline. I had to submit a video. I had to send proof of speaking in the past so they could kind of see how I was on stage. And then I was a finalist for a TEDx event in Syracuse, New York, April of this year, first week of April. I found this out in January, February. And I was so excited about it. I was like, oh, this is it. And the theme was unspoken voices. And I was like, this is definitely it. This has got to be it. This is the perfect topic for somebody who talks about unmuting yourself. The stars are aligned. And then they just dragged on, and I didn't hear anything, and I didn't hear anything, and I didn't hear anything. And it was the middle of March, and I was like, I'm going to need time to prepare this talk. So I said to my coach, I guess you can just pull me out of that one because I don't have time to do what I need to do. So I didn't, ultimately they did not select me for that event. And I heard that it might've been a little bit disorganized anyway. So she said, I think you kind of dodged a bullet on that one. So we went back to the drawing board and she submitted again. I didn't know where she was submitting me. But then I got a notification in either late March, early April. And she said, there's an event in Rockville, Maryland, which is about an hour from where I live. And it's on July 8th. And I thought, yes, the speaker training I went through was called Heroic Public Speaking. Marie, glad you're here. Hey, we're just in the middle of the TEDx story. How we got here? You came at the perfect time. So I find out that I'm a finalist for TEDx Rockville. And I was like, a TEDx on my birthday, this has got to work out. I mean, this is like, you could not plan this out. Come on now. So I find out that I'm a finalist, but one of the other speakers, I was told, had the same or similar topic to me. So they said, we really want you to speak, but could you pick a different topic? And sometimes in your life, you have an opportunity to do something and you might make a concession, and other times you might really stick with your gut and your intuition telling you, this is what you need to do now. And there are other things I could have spoken about. I mean, if you've been following me on LinkedIn for any period of time, I talk about resilience, I talk about other topics. But I said, this is the thing I want to talk about, how self-silencing is sabotaging you. That's what I want to talk about. And so the other speaker made a modification to her topic and I got accepted. And I was beyond excited. But then it's like, oh, now the real work begins. Now you got to map this out. You have 18 minutes. You have 18 minutes to say what you're going to say. You have to essentially memorize a script, which is not something I normally do. When I keynote, if anyone here has heard me keynote before, I don't normally memorize word for word what I'm saying. I know what I'm going to say, but I don't say it the exact same way every time. And so, I was working with a coach, Mike Ganino, and I worked with him 4 years ago at the speaker training I was at, and he used to be an organizer for a TEDx event. And so he knows what it takes to do this. And so we went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And, sorry, I'm just looking at all the comments here. And so we went back and forth and I made so many tweaks. You have to put evidence, you can't just say, here's my personal story. I hope it inspires you. I think sometimes we look at TEDx talks and think that's what they are, but they're very explicit about you have to have evidence, not just your own story to be backed up in what you're saying. You have to have sources. You have to, there has to be credibility behind what you're saying besides just your story. So I had to get references and all that kind of stuff for the points that I was making. And then what happened is we went to an in-person meeting. And so the way this worked, we went to an in-person meeting and I met some of the other speakers and they told us they had over 300 submissions for this event. So over 300 people applied to speak at TEDx Rockville and 7 of us were selected to speak. And then I was like, oh, this is okay, this is a really big deal. I gotta really have it together. And so I just worked on it and I worked on it and I worked on it. I probably rehearsed the speech 40 to 50 times. You have to do this to the point where it's in your bones. I mean, but you're not even thinking about it. And it's just kind of flowing out of you. And that is not easy to do because you're also remembering to click on slides. You're also remembering what gestures you're making. You're also trying to connect to the audience in an authentic and genuine way. And you're also trying to do it all within 18 minutes. And it is the hardest thing I think I had prepared for. It was a lot of work. And I want to share a couple things that I learned from going through this process. And then I want to bring somebody up here who was really helpful and pivotal for this experience. Tim, I don't know if we can send Mark a link. Holden, who's on here. Or we can just drop it in the green room. But I rehearsed this, a lot. And something that I was reminded of is the importance of really aligning with your message, of having the words that you say like really be backed by how you're showing up. It's one thing to just say a certain thing, but it's another thing to demonstrate and to really be living out what you're saying. And so I knew I wanted to make sure that what I said sounded authentic, that it sounded like me, and it, that I wanted it to be something that other people could see themselves in, and that it was my story, but it was also their story. And there's certain things you have to kind of learn how to act when you're doing this in a certain way, because when you've said something 40 to 50 times, it's hard to connect to the genuine emotion of it. It's like really hard to do, but I had to like really channel myself and go back to those moments where I was feeling these emotions so I could bring them out on stage for people. So yeah, maybe we can even just drop it in the comments, Tim, if you want. So all this to say, I've got my speech written. We had a couple in-person rehearsals. So I had to drive down to Rockville, and you go and you rehearse the speech in the space where you're going to be delivering. You meet the other speakers, you meet the AV team. You go through it. Initially, you go through it by reading it from your phone because you don't know it yet. And you get feedback from people and you make some tweaks to it. And I got to the point where I was about a week out. Oh, you're at a charity function. All right, Mark, I'm going to shout you out. I'm going to tell a story about the power of letting people speak truth to us and having the courage to receive feedback, because this is the story I'm about to share. So I had gotten to the point where it was Monday. So the talk was on Saturday, this past Monday. I posted something on LinkedIn that I'd been practicing in my room with my trolls and my Beanie Babies, talking to them, doing my presentation for them, my husband, my coach, other people. And thank you. Rocked Rockville, right? Heyo. So I post this thing on LinkedIn that I'm practicing, and Mark, who I met through a community called the Outlier Project, reached out and said, hey, if you want to have somebody be in the audience for you, I'm happy to hop on Zoom. So we got on Zoom that afternoon. I said, sounds great. We'd never had a one-on-one conversation before even, but I said, absolutely, let's do it. So we get on the phone, and he shared with me that he had a background in theater. And I was like, oh, this is kind of useful, because he might actually have some like contextual feedback to give me based on experience. This could be really valuable. So we talked for a bit. I went through my talk, and when I finished, I didn't feel the most amazing about it. But he said, I didn't really feel like you showed up until about 3.5 minutes in, Rachel. And I felt that. And he said, and I was also trying to figure out like where you were going for the first 3 minutes of the talk. And to be honest with you, I was trying to figure out where I was going too. Something felt off about it. Something felt manufactured. Something didn't feel like me. And whenever you feel that way, by the way, listen to your gut. If something doesn't really feel like you know that better than anybody else does probably, but sometimes we just get so wrapped up in getting a thing done that we allow that to be true instead of pausing and saying, wait a second, something feels off about this. Like when something feels off, right? I'm sure Joseph, you can comment on this, trust yourself, lean into that, right? And so he shared that with me, and I said, I haven't really felt that great about this intro, but I don't really know what else to do with it. It doesn't feel like me. It feels like I'm acting. It feels like I'm acting in a way that's unnatural. So Tuesday morning, I rewrote the intro to my talk. I rewrote the first 1.5 minutes of my TED Talk 4 days before I'm supposed to deliver it, which most people might say, not the smartest idea, because now you have to re-memorize in a different way, different prompts. It's a lot to do that at the last minute. And I shared it with him, and then there was something that was a little off about it. So I reached out to my friend Sam Karashi, who has been a guest on this show 1.5 years ago. He's known me for 4 or 5 years. And I said to him, Sam, he's a fellow speaker. I said, something feels off about this. He's like, yeah, that's because you wouldn't say that way. Here's how you would say this. So the question was, are you afraid? Somebody approached me. Are you afraid? Are you happy? somebody approached me at an event and came up to me, a woman at an HR event, and she said, this was after the event was over. Everyone had kind of left the room, and she said, "Are you happy?" She came up to me and asked me that to my face. And I was like, have you ever felt like exposed by a question before? I mean, I felt like, oh dear, like emperor has no clothes. How do you know? How do you know I'm not happy? And I lied to her. I did not tell her the truth because I was afraid, to be honest. I was tired. I was wiped out. I was feeling overwhelmed. I was feeling out of alignment. I wasn't in a good spot, but I didn't have the courage to say that. I didn't have the courage to be honest with her. And so I changed my opening to that. So the opening line of my TEDx, so you get a little preview here. I'm not sure when the video is going to be out, but I'll let you know when it is. Has someone ever walked up, if someone walked up to you and asked you, "Are you happy?" What would you say? Would you tell the truth? Would you lie? Would you ignore them? What would you do? And then I go and tell that story. And so, I'm so grateful to Mark for calling that out. Like, it takes courage to call out something in somebody that you don't really know that well. It takes courage to do it in somebody you do know well too. But for someone to be in the spot that he was in, like, he unmuted himself in a really powerful way. And it led to me rewriting my intro so that it feels so much more me and so much more aligned and so much more relevant to the whole talk. So, Comfort, welcome. So your first time. Oh, so good to have you here. Welcome to the Unmuted community. Everybody, welcome Comfort. So that was something, that I think, it's a journey of trusting yourself is a journey of developing a healthy relationship with yourself while having a healthy distrust of yourself. More on that. Feel free to add, Joseph. He just read a book called Trust Me, in case you're curious, everybody. So I got to that point, and I'm so grateful that I made the decision. It's humbling to have someone give you feedback to say, like, that's not working. And sometimes when someone gives us feedback about that, think about your own experience of someone giving you hard feedback. Some of the times we just want to dig in, or we want to like deny it, or we want to push back, or we want to say, it's fine the way that it is. I don't have time to change it. I could have done that. But I was so, thank you, Mark. I was so intent on making this talk as impactful as it could be. And I knew if there was something that was holding me back from having the impact I wanted to have, that I needed to change it. And so I changed it. I went in, we had a dress rehearsal the day before the event itself. And I went through it with my new opening, and I was like, I hope it works. And it went well. I finished with 26 seconds left on the clock, which was like a big win for me because I've been hitting the time almost every time I did it. And I'm going to interject here what Natalie says. Not easy, but so worth making that change. Following your gut is vital. Staying true to yourself is so important. I'm so glad that you think this is significant. I mean, this is because we all have these experiences. We all have these experiences of self-doubt. We all have these experiences of people maybe giving us feedback or pushing back on something. We all have these experiences where we're put in an uncomfortable situation and we're not really sure how to navigate it. So I'm sharing these with you because this is what it's been like. And so anyway, I did the dress rehearsal, went home. My husband gave me a card. I wish I had the card in this room, but it's downstairs. My husband, Bill, gives me cards for a lot of different things. And he had one that said, I want you to open this on our trip down to Rockville. And I forgot, so I opened it after my rehearsal. And the front of the card had a picture of a bird coming out of a cage. And it said, she who is brave is free. And as I'm reading this card and his note inside, I'm crying. And I was like, I have to change my ending. So 14 hours before I'm going on stage, I'm like, this needs to go at the end of my talk. So I messaged my coach and I was like, hey, I'm calling an audible. I need to get a slide to the AV team to have them make this one change because this is how I need to close my talk. So the night before the talk, I make the change, which causes me to use every single one of my 18 minutes, every single second of my 18 minutes I used because I made that change. Because when I think about what it is to, and by the way, I love, yes, cards for the win. Bill is the best. He is. He's really wonderful. Brittany, I'm so glad that you're here too. This is speaking to you. Fantastic. Love this. Let's see. I'm curious in your thoughts. Okay, I'm going to come to your question in a second, Paul. I'll finish this thought. I'm like squirrel right now of like all the distractions. And Tim, if you want to put the green room link in, if people want to come on and like ask a question or share something, if they were there, they want to share something, or if they want to, what it was like being in the room. Anybody who wants to do that, we'll drop the green room link in the chat. So I found out I was the second speaker. There were technically eight speakers because there was a musical performance in the middle. And so I went up first. Somebody else went up first, talked about AI. So how you can clone yourself using artificial intelligence. And then I got my happy birthday song. And then I went up on stage and I watched that clock start to count down, and I just started speaking. And I said everything I wanted to say. I didn't miss a line. I was so afraid. Am I going to flub this? Am I going to mess something up? Am I going to have a misstep? Am I going to forget what I'm going to say? But I got to the point where I'm like, I know this. I trust myself. I trust that adrenaline is something that helps you focus. And so I trusted that the adrenaline that was pumping through my veins was there to help me focus and do the thing I needed to do. It's okay to have nerves. Sometimes I was talking to my coach, Mike, about this, and he said, sometimes we tell ourselves, I'm not nervous, I'm excited. And he was like, what's wrong with being nervous? Maybe like you are nervous. Maybe you're not actually excited. And I'm like, it's both and, I was very excited about this opportunity, and my nerves were like, ugh, because I knew the magnitude of what I was about to do. And excellence is a value of mine, and I knew I wanted to do the most excellent job that I could. And so for your own experience, if there's ever a time where you're like, oh, I'm feeling nervous, something that a guest we had on the show said a few months ago, Kelly McGonigal, who's an associate professor, guest lecturer at Stanford and an author, she said, stress is what arises when something we care about is at stake. So the only way to have no stress in your life is to care about nothing. Not interested in that life. Like I want to care about stuff. So it's a sign that, Toby. Toby and I had a 20-minute conversation in the bathroom, which was lovely at the event. I appreciate that, Toby. It's a sign of importance. Yes, it is. Absolutely. So, so I got up there, I did my talk. I'll share with you y'all want to hear the last lines? I'll do this for you because you're here today. So let's do it. Let me see if I can remember. I think I can. So I finished telling a story that may have involved singing. I'm not going to spoil that. You'll get that when you see the recording. But when I finished that, I said, after our dress rehearsal last night, my husband gave me a card that said, "She who is brave is free." It's brave to start acting like your voice and your thoughts and your feelings and your needs and your wants matter just as much as anybody else's, because they do. Stop silencing yourself. It's costing you too much, and it's robbing you of connection and freedom and joy. Here's to being brave and bold and courageous. Here's to showing up authentically as ourselves. And here's to making every moment count. That's the end of the talk. And I literally made every single second count. And then, the whole room claps, and then they laugh during the thing, and people cried during the thing, and people that normally don't cry were like, I cried, thanks. and then to feel the joy of everything when the event was all over, the TEDx organizers had a birthday cake for me. And then we went back to the side room, and there were like probably 24 people back there. Everybody sang happy birthday again. And then we went to lunch with a group of friends and family and had just such a wonderful time. Cue the tears. Yes, Natalie. And let me show you, can I show you something? I haven't ever shared this online before, but remember this thing I talked about, this this picture thing that I draw at the end of the year? One of my goals is that I will have a release date set for my book that's going to come out in 2024 is my plan. But for this, I have TEDx delivered 100,000 plus views. I mean, that could be ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? It could be like, who do you think you are? Why is anyone going to watch your TED Talk 100,000 times? I don't know. Why not? Like, a lot of people watch TED Talks over 100,000 times. I think mine's good enough to get that view. But it's like, you have to put a thing out into the world that that maybe you don't necessarily have evidence for yet, but like you have to believe it first. You have to cast that vision for yourself to say like, maybe this could be. If I were to think really big about my life, if I were to think really big about what's possible, what would that vision look like? And so for me, one of the things this year was deliver a TEDx, 100,000 views. I hadn't even booked my talk when I drew that picture. I hadn't booked my talk. I hadn't confirmed anything. But I believed in my bones that this was going to happen this year. Because every other year I just drew the circle and I did not write the word delivered. But this year I was certain I was going to deliver it. Yes, crying at work on your lunch break. That's what we do in this show. I'm so glad. Thank goodness your friend beside me had extra Kleenexes. Yeah, like why not you? You know what I'm saying? Like we spend too much time doubting ourselves instead of stepping into what could be possible. And this is coming from someone who has doubted myself at points in my life a lot, as much as anybody else. I mean, I finished my talk and I was like, I feel like I left everything out there, but is there anything when I see the video, am I going to like what I see? Here's hoping. I mean, you know, we're our own worst critic. We're our own harshest critic. But there's something really energizing about setting a vision for something and then taking steps toward it. Even if the first step toward the vision is just writing the thing down. So thinking about that for yourself, what's a vision of something that you want to make happen or accomplish in your life? And what are the steps you're taking toward it? I'll give you another example. I got reached out to write a book in the fall of 2018. And I was so excited about it. It was with like a legitimate publisher. I was going to co-author with somebody who was several decades my senior, but who had a PhD and certain qualifications and credibility. And we started working on this. We had about a year into it. I'd written about 40,000 words. And the pandemic hit, and there was something that just wasn't quite working, and the whole thing fell apart. And they said, you know what? We're going to go in another direction, but we believe in you in this project, and we believe that you'll that you'll be fine, you know, basically. And I was devastated. That was in March of 2020. Devastated. But I know at this point that was all supposed to be part of the plan. Like that failure, I don't think it's a failure. I just think it's a thing that didn't work out. It was a detour, right? We have these detours in our lives. That was a detour. I thought I was going to have a book written 5 years ago. I didn't. I don't. But now I'm working with a developmental editor who I've been working with for the past year and a half to like share stories and all of that. And we have a plan now for in the next 9 months to have this book manuscript ready, you know, like done. So Comfort, you're already in it. You are in the community. You are here. We hang out every other Monday, and we are so glad that you're here. Yeah, this is a community of possibility. If anybody else wants to drop in the chat what you, I don't know, what you feel the value is, or what it means to you to be part of the unmuted community, let us know. We can encourage Comfort with that. I love this. 100K, why not? 100K out of 8 billion people, why not? Yes. Yes to that. I don't know how long the video will take. So sidebar, let me go back to what I was saying. I really do believe in the power of things happen in their time. They happen when they're meant to happen. I was not meant to write a book 5 years ago. There are so many things that have happened in my life in the past 5 years, including a car accident, was involved in a traumatic car accident 3 years ago, finding my voice as a singer, becoming a singer-songwriter, singing on stage at my high school, launching my own business, doing a TEDx. Like, I just think, oh my gosh, thank goodness I didn't write that book 5 years ago. This is going to be so much of a better book. So when you think about something that happens in your life, there's something that you really want, and you're like, why hasn't this happened yet? Or, I thought this was going to be the thing that was going to work out for me. I really, in my bones, I believe that what is meant for you will not miss you. That what is meant for you will not miss you. I have another, a little sign in my living room. It's a little piece of art with a butterfly on it. And it says the words, allow the unfolding. Allow the unfolding. Which means don't force it. And I look at anything of significance, any significant accomplishment in my life, I have not forced. I haven't forced it. I've been present. I've taken intentional action. I've cast a vision. I've been clear on what I want to accomplish, but the path I take to get there, I'm open to whatever that is. And I think that's a really healthy way of existing in the world, of saying, you know what? I know, Gil, so glad that you're here. Yes, to possibilities. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome first time. Everybody give Gil some love. You know, it really is such an empowering practice to put yourself in a situation of imagining what could be and believing that you're worthy of pursuing that. I'm going to bring Toby up here in just a second. The last thing I want to say is that's one of the reasons I wrote my song Somebody, because the message I wanted to communicate to people was you are somebody, you matter, and you are enough. And you have to believe that you are somebody who matters in order to even move forward on a vision you have for something in your life. If you believe that you don't matter, why on earth would you attempt anything? If you believe you don't matter, why would you cast a dream or vision for something? So this starts with this fundamental belief that each of us, I shared a post on this a couple weeks ago, that there's a 1 in like 400 quadrillion chance, and even greater than that, that you would even exist. So when we think about, oh my gosh, I have this beautiful life, and I have the ability to influence and shape the path that it goes on. And I get to cast a vision for the things I want to accomplish and the person I want to become. And what are the things I want to do to become that kind of person? I get to influence that. Wow, that's amazing. And so to think to yourself, well, what is something, if you were to draw this, this was the prompt is dare to dream big. Like in an ideal world, what would your year look like? You know? And so I have all of that on here. I have like what my year would look like, from things related to my marriage, to physical health, to trips that we go on, a UK trip. We're going to London in December. Picking a release date for my book, having peace about my accident settlement. Check, that's done. Releasing Somebody and 6 songs. We'll have 3 by September. But all that to say, casting a vision for yourself, drawing pictures, getting out of the logical place of your head and going into a place of creative possibility is so empowering. So if anyone does that, send me a message. Toby, we're going to bring you up here. Hi, Toby.
Hi.
It's so good to see you again.
I'm trying to figure out how not to have 2 things going at the same time. I hear feedback.
So mute the one on LinkedIn.
I'm trying. Me and technology.
In the lower right corner on the LinkedIn screen, there's the mute.
Now I've completely lost you. Oh, okay.
Can you see me?
I can see you.
Okay. There you go.
Got it.
You're good?
So what I wanted to tell you is that you've used the analogy of butterflies and unfolding wings several times, and I've wanted to tell you so many times that if you have ever watched a butterfly come out of the chrysalis, a monarch, they do not actually unfold their wings. It comes from inside. There is a very, very, very big body, and the juice, the life, the blood, what we would consider the bloodline, is pumped from inside to expand the wings.
Wow.
And that allows for the development to be as expansive as it can be in the right situation. But it means that you have to be in a place that's protected. You have to be in a place where nothing can disturb you. No, not even a breeze can disturb you, the butterfly, as it expands, because that dries it too quickly. And then it will be permanently changed or altered. It will not ever reach its full potential.
Wow.
So it's about what's inside creating. And I think of you and I think of this a lot, because it's about taking what you have inside, what's been gifted to you, and allowing it to be as big and beautiful and enabling as it can be for you in your life.
Toby, you always have a way of making me cry. Like something that you said, like you just said, you know what else on my paper I didn't read that is directly related to what you just said? I said, believe in my bigness. on this little paper. Here, unmute yourself. Oh, Tim, can we unmute her? Okay. I missed what you said. Oh, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, but it probably is best to like go off.
That's fine. Thank you for
Sorry.
sharing that wisdom. No, you're great.
Sorry
That's
about
like,
that.
no, you're perfect. That's like, but that's part of what it is like sometimes we feel like we have this, this apologetic way of, and we can take here, Tim, we can have Toby come off just so I know some of the AV stuff or the tech stuff. But, sometimes we feel like bad about being big because there's something at some point that told us like we're being too much or we shouldn't do that or there's something wrong with doing that. And I think for a lot of my life, I have felt that way too, because when I was in school growing up, I was a very good student and I was often one of the top students in my class. And it was attention that didn't always serve me socially. You get attention for being a smart student, but then you get picked on or name called or excluded from things, or kids just aren't nice, They can not be nice. Some kids are really nice, but sometimes they're not. And so I sort of felt like, ooh, don't be too big because people are going to take you down a peg. So let me not get too big so that I don't have to have the penalty of bigness. And now the more I'm expanding and being unapologetic about it, the more I feel like compelled to keep doing it. It's like this, like, okay, I felt that. I've let myself be seen in that way. I let myself be heard and celebrated in that way. And I survived it. And nothing bad happened. And I think that's another way when we show up big and people embrace us for it instead of knock us down a peg for it. I think Joseph, coming back to trust, that's another thing that we can do to help build a trust in ourselves, that like, all right, you can withstand that pressure. You can withstand your own bigness. You don't have to apologize for it or hide from it or dismiss it or diminish it or doubt it. What would it look like for you to believe in your bigness? And that looks different for everybody. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to be standing on a stage speaking and that you have to reach millions of people with a message in order to be big. Like it can just be you showing up as your fullest self. That's what that can be, And Veda, thank you. You always remind me of this. Like, and I'm glad, feeling the fire today for real. I know I saw that comment earlier. And don't apologize for it. If you have big dreams, you have a big vision for your life, if you want to do a big thing and people are like, that doesn't make any sense. Or why do you think you could do that? When I launched my business, people are like, who's going to pay you to talk? And I was like, oh, I'll find them. And I think I've done okay. You realize that others need you to be expanded as you can be. Imagine a world where we're all reaching our fullest potential. Yeah. Imagine a world where like everyone's butterfly wings are expanded. I have all these little butterflies. Let me show you this. All right. I have this little bulletin board over here with like all these little things on it. My friend Gina gave me this, or Katie gave me this. Oh, this was a birthday. My dad gave me all these little butterflies because he knows that I like them. They're little clips that I have all over this board. And then my friend Katie gave me this card. I know many of you have heard this quote. Just when the caterpillar thought the world was over, it became a butterfly. My friend Gina gave me a mug with that quote on it. And then when I was at a women's retreat, I don't know when this was, 6 years ago, we had to do watercolors and do a picture with watercolors. And it was a women's retreat with my mom's church. And the quote that I pulled was a Bible verse from Zechariah 4:10. It says, "Do not despise these small beginnings." And I drew a picture of a butterfly. Because it's like the small beginning is when the butterfly is a caterpillar, it doesn't know that it's going to become a butterfly. Right? Like it doesn't know. When it's in the cocoon breaking down, it doesn't know it's going to become a butterfly. So when you think about your life and you're like, oh, is it possible for me to get there? If it's possible for a flipping caterpillar to turn into a butterfly, that still just blows my mind. If you really think about it. If you think about what a caterpillar looks like and then you think about what a butterfly looks like, it's pretty mind-blowing. Even with an explanation, it's still like, I don't quite get it. And so think about that for your own life. As you think about your own life and what you're imagining and what you're envisioning and what could be possible, don't despise these small beginnings. Like there's another quote that I have. This is so relevant for today. I wasn't even planning to say all this, but this is my quote board. And it says, the one thing all famous authors, world-class athletes, business tycoons, singers, actors, and celebrated achievers in any field have in common is that they all began their journey when they were none of these things. Like, all of us start somewhere. All of us start somewhere. And sometimes that start is small. And who knows where any of us is going to end up? Who knows what any of us has the capacity to become? But I think believing and seeing that vision for ourselves first and foremost, even if we don't know the path to get there, we often don't. Even if we don't necessarily feel qualified, even if we don't feel like we have the credibility or the experience or the talent or whatever to do it, I think some of the bravest people are people who are willing to cast a vision and take steps toward it, even if they're not certain it's going to come to fruition, because the growth happens on the path there. Like when I think about this TEDx, when I woke up yesterday, my husband was like, I bet you're glad you don't have to run through your talk again. I was like, I bet you're glad I don't have to run through my talk because you have had to listen to it 25 times. But like, there is this a little bit of sadness, you know, after a really big moment that you have in your life. And then you're like, oh, it's over. But the excitement was on the journey. The excitement was the preparation and the practice and what it did for me to show myself that I could do this big thing that I've wanted to do for a long time. When we prove something to ourselves, not even to anybody else. I was proving this to myself more than I was proving this to anybody else. I really believe that I could make that this thing that I really wanted to have happen could be a thing. That I could do the work, that I could get the reps in, that I could trust myself enough to stand on that stage and believe the words were going to come to me. And they did. And I love this. And the so much action in the chat. My quote, live the life you love the life you live. Beautiful. Yes. If you aren't willing to be off in the beginning, you won't be great. Yes, Paul. And Comfort, well said. Comfort's already dropping knowledge. First day here. Okay, Comfort, love it. The most important thing is to start. Yes, like you got to start. Again, I've shared with you all, I had this vision of doing a TEDx I started watching those things 15 years ago. 15, 20 years ago. Someone said maybe you should do one 7 years ago. I was like, oh yeah, I want to. I didn't start to take the action steps to pursue this path until 2021. And it didn't happen until 2023. You know, but I was committed to the journey. Like, commit to the journey. If you have a vision for something you want to have happen and you really want to see that thing happen in your life, commit to the journey and be patient with the process. Commit to the journey and be patient with the process. Yes, Zach, I think a bunch of us caterpillars are getting psyched. I love to hear that. Zach's going to do a TEDx someday. Do I have a link to my talk? Yes, move forward. Exactly. Like, just take steps forward. It is not out yet. So what happens is they have 4 cameras. They're shooting the talk on 4 different video cameras. So they have to go in and edit it to get the camera angle synced in and all that kind of stuff, and do lighting, make sure the lighting's good, make sure the sound is good. I'm not sure. I will let all of you know as soon as the talk is out. I'm guessing it's going to be within a month. They seem to be a pretty together crew. They have to submit to TEDx. I'm not exactly sure how the process works, but I will let you know as soon as it is available. Paul says, my first Instagram reel always humbles me. I'm like, darn, you had the courage to post that. Hey, we can all judge ourselves, right? And Alex, hey, Alex says, a phrase I like to live by every day is to trust the magic of new beginnings and new hope. Yes, this is beautiful. Growth happens on the way there. It sure does. Rich says, when our kids were younger, we would collect caterpillars and watch them form a chrysalis and come out as butterflies. Amazing thing to see in person if you have not seen it before. Paul's drop of knowledge. He says, my favorite quote, be more afraid of being nothing than being something, from a woman named Danielle Delgado. Yeah, it's first of all, and I had to say this, you all, I listened to my song, Somebody, before I went up there. And I was reminded that I had to remind myself in that moment. I listened to the lyrics and I was like, this is so darn true. I needed to hear my own song. No mistakes. Which I was afraid of making a mistake. Know the rules. Be the best. cover up your wounds. I was like, oh gosh, taking your own medicine here. And then the line of, you believe you have to prove you are somebody. And I had to remind myself, you are already somebody, regardless of how today goes. You are already somebody. And this is true for all of you, regardless of whatever the thing you're attempting to make happen, no matter how that goes, whether you accomplish it or not, you are somebody already. You are somebody already. If you never accomplish anything else, you are somebody already. And I had to like get in that headspace before I went up on stage to be like, nothing to prove. Nothing to prove. You are somebody already. You are somebody who matters and you are enough. Everybody, it has been really awesome being with you for this. I feel like, can you ask them to release your talk on July 27th? Natalie, I don't know if I have that much sway with this group yet, but I will be sure to find out. And as soon as I find out, I will let all of you know. I will let you know. I will post it on here as soon as it's out. And if I know a date before it is published and I can announce it on this show, I will for sure do that as well. Last thing I want to say. So one, thank you all for your support. I'm going to share pictures and more insights from the experience on here this week. Also on Instagram, if we're not already on Instagram, it's unmuted life is my Instagram handle. If you want to hang out over there as well. I post a lot more like stories and stuff about what's going on. So that's a fun place to connect. So thank you all for your support. For everyone who was there physically, for everyone who was there in spirit, thank you so much. Can't wait to share the talk with you once it's out. And then 2 more quick updates. I got to meet with the band to record the instrumental for song number 3. And y'all, this band is legit, like full drum set, keyboard, bass guitarist, organ in the studio. Like it's going to be unreal. Both of my next 2 songs, one should come out by the end of August, and I'm hoping the third one will come out by the end of September. So just a heads up that is what is coming. I am on Threads, Paul. It's the new Meta thing app. I'm on Threads the same way I was on Twitter, which was like, I'm on there, but I have to guard my mental health and not get sucked down a rabbit hole. So I'm on there. But, Paige, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were here. This is amazing. Paige and Carla are here. Oh my gosh, everybody. So you're excited for the next song. I'm so glad that you're excited for the next song. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I'm not even sure which one's going to come out next. Surprise. I'll let you know once I know that. But one is called I Didn't See It Coming. And then the other one is about checking on the light bulbs. I'm not sure what the title's going to be yet, though. So stay tuned, pun intended, for that one. But do you want to maybe, Tim, should I just maybe close out by like singing my song? I so wasn't prepared for this today. My voice is not even remotely warmed up. So I make no promises for what this is about to sound like. Usually I warm up my voice before I sing. So let me just do that a little bit. By the way, this is a helpful little thing you can do to warm up your voice as you blow into a straw. So give me 1 second. All right, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and play this. And I hope you enjoy it. And I hope I can remember the lyrics to my song. Yay. The song is called Somebody. You can find it wherever you listen to music. And we will be back here in 2 weeks on July 24th. I'm going to be on vacation for the next week and a half. Can't wait. So I will see you back on the 24th. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and sing you this song. No mistakes, know the rules. Be the best and cover up your wounds. You believe you have to prove that you are somebody. Can measure up to expectations that keep piling up. And need to perform to prove that you've earned it, that you've earned my love. I wish that you could see what I see when I look at you. I see somebody. Take a breath and just be. You're not on the clock, and you don't have to impress me. There is nothing to achieve to be somebody. Let go of all the expectations that keep piling up. The need to be good to hold it together. It's all become too much. Release the need to prove you're worthy. What if you believed you are somebody already? You are somebody, you matter, and you are enough. And if you know the song, you can sing it with me. Here we go. Ready? You are somebody. You are somebody. You matter and you are enough. You are somebody. You are somebody. You matter and you are enough. You are enough. 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 And that's the fun of singing for people without warming up. It is terrifying to do this, let me tell y'all. But I see tears. I love it. I love when I see and I feel the tears. Amazing. Yeah, use this phrase often. Here, I'll leave you with this. You are a divine necessity. You are not a mistake. You are required for this great drama of existence to unfold. It's true for every single one of us. Psh. Mic drop. We're just going to leave it at that, friends. Thank you all for being here today. This has been such a gift. I appreciate all of you. Veda, Natalie, Comfort, and Tim, maybe we can drop in the link. I should probably put the link to the song. Hold on a second. I got a thing I can drop in. I was a little rusty on the intro to that, but you all are here to support me. And that's the thing about community is like, you can do a thing. Version of me 10 years ago would have been like, if I'm not perfectly warmed up and ready to sing this song, I am not doing it. Because what if I embarrass myself? And the version of me now says, okay, it is what it is. Sometimes I'm a little froggy in the morning and I'm not where I want to be, but you forget the notes and you sing the intention and people can feel the intention. So with that, friends, Toby, Carla, Comfort, Veda, Natalie, Gil, Paige, Paul, who else is here? Let's see, Joseph, Doug, Rich, everybody here. I'm scrolling up. Thank you all for being here. Tim Sohn, of course, Alex, Maureen. I'm hoping I'm catching everybody. If I'm not, I'm sorry. I'm doing my best. Diane, Deb's here, Nancy Ann. Anyway, thank you all for being here today. It's been awesome. Ken, see you in 2 weeks. And as soon as I know about the video, I'm going to post it on here. So be on the lookout. Okay, bye, everybody.